live and kicking on location. I am Lisa Marie Bench with Hostess with the Moses, and I'm so excited to be coming to you from my favorite city in the whole world, Sin City, Viva Las Vegas. I am here at Planet Hollywood, the V Theater, to interview Marc Savard, comedy hypnotist. I just saw the show, it's fabulous. He was voted #1 in Las Vegas for favorite comedy hypnotist. So in a second, I'm going to sit down with Marc and let's see if he can hypnotize me. Stay tuned. Alright, so here I am with Marc Savard. We are here at the V Theater, Planet Hollywood, and I just saw his fabulous show. He's going to tell us all about how he does this magic, how he keeps us so entertained for so long. And by the way, the show is 75 minutes, which is great. And you were on every night except for
Fridays. I'm off on Fridays.
Wow, everyone needs a day off, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
What a great night to have off.
Yeah, it's a date night with my wife, you know.
So he's married, ladies, stay away.
We've been married 16 and a half years.
Congratulations.
And we have 4 kids.
Wow.
All girls.
That's a lot of weddings. Well, and he's here in Vegas, so hey.
Yeah, drive-through weddings to save daddy some money. That's right.
So anyway, with your hypnotist expertise, what piqued your interest to get into that?
It happened by accident. I was trying to get into med school, and I got wind of hypnosis, and I started doing reading research, reading in a book. And my friends in college got wind of it, and they said, why don't you hypnotize us? So I did, and all of a sudden I got one of them hypnotized of the 3. And then this continued, and it went on every Friday night at my apartment while I was going to college, and people would pile in and we'd do a little mini show, and this went on week after week after week. Then I got my first call to do a show, and I said, I don't really do shows, I just kind of mess around. And then, no, that's what we want, just, you know, mess around and do a little mini show for us. And so I did a show, and then did a second one, and a third one, and I did 6 the first year, 52 the next year, 115 the year after that, and I decided to quit college and be a full-time entertainer. So what my parents heard was, you're not going to be a doctor anymore, now you're going to be a traveling gypsy show, is what they heard. So it wasn't a very, very popular choice at the time, but now my parents are my biggest fan, and they come, you know, quite often to Vegas to visit. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now, before the show starts, you are looking, you grab about 25 people, or they volunteer, and then you decipher through and pick the best, like 10. Is it 10, I think you narrowed it down to?
Yeah, I narrowed it down to a few less tonight. I want the best ones of the group.
And what are you looking for?
I'm looking for mental instability. No kidding, I don't know.
If that were the case, I would have been up there.
You would have been the star of the show. But, I'm looking for a lot of different characteristics. I'm looking for people who, 1, get deeply hypnotized. 2, if they're too deeply hypnotized and they're kind of slumped over and sluggish, and they don't move very much, that's not entertaining. So I need movers and shakers. I need people that are going to do some silly things. That's the next thing I'm looking for. I'm also looking for people who are emotional and creative. And so there's lots of different tests that I'm doing throughout the hypnosis induction process that begins weeding them out to end up with the stars of the show.
And then when these people are done, it's kind of like you snap them out of it somehow and they become normal again. But do they remember what they have done?
On average, about 70% will remember bits and pieces, or even the show up to its entirety, whereas conversely, about 30% will have no recollection whatsoever. I want to point out something that you said. You said that you bring them back and make them normal again. What if they were normal when they were hypnotized, and they go back to their regular kind of mundane
Well, that's a judgment
state,
call.
right? And here's why I say that. Hypnosis allows someone to be their truest personality without consequence.
Really?
They don't care what anyone says. They don't care that there's 300 people watching. They say what they feel. They do what they feel. They're their truest personality without consequence. And a lot of times when someone who's shy goes up and they get up on stage and they're with their family and their friends, the friends will say, oh, they're so quiet, and they never would do anything like that. And the family, the parents will say, oh, that's what she's like at home. So a lot of times we're limited to our behaviors because we socially conform. We don't get up on the table and dance and get crazy because we're afraid of what people are going to think. When you're drunk, you don't care. When you're hypnotized, you don't care. So you get to be your truest personality without consequence.
Well, and that leads me to my next question. I understand you were hit by a drunk driver.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that and how that changed you.
It was in 1996, so it was 19 years ago. It's been a long time. And I was performing at a youth conference at a show, and after the show, I loaded up all the gear with a couple of road techie guys that were traveling with me, and loaded up all the gear, and we were leaving the venue, and about 20 after midnight, we were driving and a drunk driver crossed over center line at full highway speed, about 65 miles per hour, and hit my vehicle head on. And broke my back, I fractured my skull, I was leaking brain fluid up my nose. I broke, so I had a basal skull fracture, broke the arch around my eye here, and compression fracture of lumbar 3, broke some ribs. It was a pretty horrendous car crash. James, my cousin, who was my stagehand assistant at the time, had some broken ribs, a smashed up face, and the other guy that normally travels had his own car that night because we were done the tour and he was going, to meet some family or something like that. And the drunk driver was killed. He was not wearing his seatbelt, and he was killed at the car crash. So it was horrific, and we're very fortunate to be alive. And from that, I designed an alcohol awareness program geared for high school students about the dangers of drinking and driving, mixed in with my hypnosis show. So it was entertaining and it was emotional, and it created a crash scene scenario, which was very controversial. And it was a program that was so very powerful and very moving. I toured with it for about 10 years throughout all high schools in Canada and the USA, and something I'm very proud of, obviously.
Yeah.
And, it was a interesting chapter of my life.
And is it possible to hypnotize these young kids right in high school to maybe not drink so much?
Well, that wasn't the design of the program. The program was to...
Awareness.
Right. Because I did a crash scenario, and they played out roles, and it was very, very emotional. What happens when a car crash happens in real life, we don't talk about it. You feel bad, you don't want to go to the drunk driver and say, what was going on in your mind? What kind of things were you thinking? After the car crash happened, what were you thinking then? You had killed somebody, or, these are questions we don't ask. We don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable, we don't want to bring up bad emotions. You don't ask parents of the victim, what happened when you lost your high school student to death? What happened, how did you feel? How's that transition been? We don't ask those questions. When I set up the car crash scenario, none of that's real, but the emotions are real. So I interview all the people that are involved in the scenario, and I ask them those exact questions. So they would share their feelings. I felt this way. Oh my God, I remember feeling this, and they're emotional. They're talking about it. There's not a dry eye in the house. And because it's the peers to everyone in the audience, that's where the encouragement comes. Please talk about it after the show's over. Ask them what they were feeling. Ask them what went on in their minds. That's how we learn. It's when the information, so we don't make the same mistakes that someone else did. That's why the program was so effective.
That's great, especially taking something that was so horrific and turning it into something positive.
Yeah.
That's why everyone has to do that somehow.
Well, that's where you turn adversity around. Something like that happens, you're given a choice. You're going to roll over, or you're going to get up and take it on.
It's all about how you react to things. That's what I've learned. So now you were voted #1 comedy show in Viva Las Vegas.
Yeah.
2 years in a row?
2 years running.
Wow.
Yeah, 63 shows in that category, and we took it. Yeah.
I know, and you're really not even. I mean, you are. It's a comedy act, but
it's not a stand-up comedy,
right?
Well,
and you're beating out like Carrot Top and everybody.
Well, this isn't a stand-up comedy, and what's neat about this show is it isn't necessarily a routine. It's real people from the audience doing silly stuff. And when you see a comedian and you laugh and enjoy, but when your husband is up on stage river dancing or doing some of the things that we had them do, you're literally crying in laughter because it's someone you know. And I think that's what makes it so entertaining.
Right. Obviously, you have a knack for it.
Well, and that's the hardest part. Hypnotize people say, well, is it hard to hypnotize people? It's not hard to hypnotize. It's the hardest part of the show is directing and taking the pieces and say, okay, that guy's going to play this role, this guy's going to be that, this girl's really emotional, I'm going to put her here. And it's orchestrating and casting in such a short amount of time in order to put the show together. That's kind of the hard part.
Now, you say that everyone can be hypnotized. Every single person, even an intoxicated person?
Well, yeah, what happens when, if they're extremely intoxicated, they're in a completely different state, so sometimes they'll end up passing out, but not necessarily. That person can be hypnotized, but the situation has to be right. Here's an example. Let's pretend that, so this is a scenario that actually happened to me years ago. There's a guy who hired me for their attorney's year-end party, and he's trying to make partner. So there's 120 lawyers in the firm, and with all the spouses and whatever, so it was a nice big event. And they push him up on stage. You go volunteer, you go volunteer. So he gets up on stage. He doesn't feel comfortable being hypnotized because one, he doesn't want to say anything about the senior partners that's going to cost him his job. He's afraid of acting silly and embarrassing them, embarrassing himself. So he's having a hard time relaxing, and he doesn't get hypnotized. The show turned out to be a success. very entertaining. He loved it. He goes, I think I'd like to hire you for my family reunion. And that was several weeks later. And he volunteered to participate in the show, and now he's with his family. So the reservations have gone away, and now he ended up getting hypnotized and becoming the star of the show. So the social environment can dictate someone's suggestibility in hypnosis. Same person, not hypnotized in one area, hypnotizable in another.
Yeah, because I was wondering, while they're on stage, are they aware that they're on stage?
Most are. They're aware, their conscious mind is aware of what's happening. They just can't help it. It's almost like they have this uncontrollable urge to do the things that I say. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Really.
Have you got your wife trained to do the laundry, not spend a lot of money?
Well, it's the other way around. She's got me trained, you know. As a matter of fact, I hypnotized my wife.
Cook good.
I haven't hypnotized her for anything silly or anything like that, or to take advantage of her that way, but I hypnotized her to deliver all 4 of our babies using hypnosis as the only anesthesia.
And she did it?
She had pain-free deliveries for all 4 of our babies. Yeah. She's a legend at the hospital. It's amazing.
Oh, and you hypnotized her yourself?
Yeah.
Well, why not do that at the hospital to all the ladies?
I do have a hypnotherapy program for childbirth.
Oh, well, tell us about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, some people, you know, would rather. I mean, nowadays everyone takes the easy route. You know,
Right.
for example, in the 1950s, there's like 2% of the births were C-section. Now it's elective. I mean, you can choose it. You know, we're getting lazier as a society, and it's not just childbirth; it's everything. You know, there's medications and all these things, and we're starting to see a slow shift back. People want to take control of what they're eating again. They want to take control of their health. Who knows better about your body than you? And so that's starting to change. That's why you're starting to see a lot more of these holistic approaches, and hypnotherapy is stronger now than it's ever been.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, tell us about your classes that you offer to teach people how to Marc Savard International. Tell us more about that and how people can become him.
Well, I teach classes on stage hypnosis and to do what I do. And I just graduated a class, and we had 98 students, I think. 98 students, and they're representing from 11 or 13 countries. From basically all over. They fly in to learn to do what I do, and it's a neat experience. And I've got part 2 of the same class coming up in April, and then part 3 coming up in October. So it is a lot of fun.
Now, how do people, if they want to join your seminar, how do they register?
You can just go to my website, marcsavard.com, and there's usually links to find out more information about it. There's some videos and information.
And so you can train them to do what you do.
Yeah, hypnosis is not that difficult. It is scientific. It's not voodoo. It's not magic.
Well, although you did have a voodoo doll.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they thought it was a voodoo doll. It's not really a voodoo doll.
Okay. It looks like it. And they did everything that you even dropped it. I think you dropped it by accident, and everybody collapsed.
Yeah, accidentally on purpose.
Wow. So now I also saw, as I was waiting for your show to start, the most hypnotic words. Or I do.
Yeah, yeah, I do.
And what does that mean?
That means, yeah, your spouse can usually get you to do more things than I can get you to do.
Well, that's great. Now, how would you like people to reach you?
Well, the best thing, I mean, you can find us on Facebook, Marc Savard Comedy Hypnosis. We're very easy to find. We're also easy to find on Twitter. That links to all of our websites. Marc with a C, M-A-R-C, savard.com, and you can link to all of our stuff from there. And
you can also call directly, if you're old-fashioned that way, 702-374-1906. And I'll hook you up with the theater here, and they can order you tickets and everything. And it's a great time. Everyone comes to have a blast, and it's a lot of fun, and they have nice waitresses. You can have a few cocktails if you want.
It just gives you courage to volunteer.
Exactly,
have a couple of cocktails,
exactly. Yeah. And then after the show, you can meet Marc right here and get your picture taken. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And I still want you to hypnotize me.
Well, but you didn't even volunteer.
Well, because I didn't want to take away from somebody. But why not?
That is that is
lame
crap.
excuse.
No, you basically said, I'm so afraid that you could hypnotize me, is what you were saying by that. I didn't want to go up there.
Well, go ahead and hypnotize me really quickly, and we'll see what happens.
Well, do you think you can be hypnotized?
Well, yeah, and I have a tendency to, my deep desire is to become a Vegas stripper. So let's see if you can do it.
Oh, okay. Just breathe in real deep.
Oh my gosh, here it comes. Thank you so much for watching more Live and Kicking on Location. And be sure to definitely subscribe to my show and come see Marc here at Planet Hollywood at the V Theater. Thanks again, Marc.
Thank you.
Had a great time. Bye-bye.